Wait, did he actually... No, okay. I thought it was cutting to him going outside, and I was like, did he actually leave? But no. I think she's gonna face this thing down, and he's gonna jump out of, like, some... No, he's gonna flank it. He's gonna flank it for sure. I'm putting my money on him going downstairs, and then back up to the main way, and, like, tackling it from behind and giving Aoko an opening. That's my bet. Mentally, Aoko bemoaned the disaster she was in. The quality of this puppet was on a completely different level compared to the one from the park 2 days ago. An auto-incanting perpetual motion machine was a rarity in and of itself, but this puppet was also equipped for battle with its extending arms and Gaia-projecting crystalline eyes. It was a first-class product that, if put on the market, would sell for hundreds of millions of yen. Although, that was only one factory in its value as an antique. For the purposes of combat, it would have made more sense to mobilize a significantly less expensive familiar. To use such a precious commodity as a tool for murder marked this puppet's master as a completely different breed of crazy from the enemies she'd faced up until now. I ran out of breath during that. Marked this puppet's master as a completely different breed of crazy from the enemies she'd faced up until now. I mean...
Ictius meus obitus dies, et meus nativus dies, Theoberum.
All magi are kind of crazy. The sound of a crackling music box filled the air. The automata, animated by its own curses, approached. The corridor measured approximately 30 feet in length. Aoko lay in wait around a corner further down the hall, anticipating the puppet's appearance. This was not to buy Sojiro time to escape. Far from it. Aoko had concluded that she couldn't make a break for it under the current circumstances. Even if she did try to escape, and by some miracle made it out of the House of Mirrors, that was as far as she would go. Outside, with no cover, Aoko would quickly be overtaken and skewered from behind. That doesn't actually really make sense, because if you got outside first, and you turned around and, like, well, I guess maybe. Assuming her, yeah, I guess, never mind. I was just thinking, like, if she was able to recover her magic, and then she could, like, turn around and, like, aim, and, like, when it appeared, she could fire at it, but no, that would require her magic to come back at the perfect moment, which it probably wouldn't. So that, yeah. As long as her magecraft was disabled, escape was impossible. Instead, she chose to force the enemy back. The situation was not the most favorable, but neither was the puppet's. Though this narrow hall gave Aoko no place to run, it in turn prevented the puppet from reaching full speed. That was the weak point of this machine. Automata of its era had a tendency to struggle with minute changes in speed.
Setta.
She flowed energy into her shorted circuits. Her blood flow and magical energy supply were unstable. It would be difficult to construct a formula in this state. All she could do was harden her right arm by imbuing it with as much energy as she could. Doing so turned her arm into an improvised weapon like a hammer or a bat. Assuming she could manage to get into close combat range, this was the best she could do. I guess the foreground one is supposed to be like her inner feelings, I think. All she needed now was a plan of attack. The question wasn't what weapon to use, but how to use the weapon she had. The simplest way would be to use the mirror's reflections to hide and then rush the puppet from its blind spot. Except for one major problem. It didn't have a sense of sight in the first place. The puppet's view of the world around it did not stem from visual feedback, but from mapping the topography of its surroundings. In theory, it was the same as a bat's echolocation. The environment could be measured based on the emission and return of high-frequency waves, sound waves. Those chants served as sensor pulses. As far as the puppet was concerned, the mirrors were no better than transparent panes, making even the thought of an ambush laughable. I don't know why I put invisible in there.
近づけば近づくほどよりリアルに察知される。本当は遠距離からの狙撃が最適なんだけど、ガンドを撃ってくるならフィンの一撃ぐらい隠してるわよね。
Yeah, maybe whatever that is. I don't know what a fin shot is, but yeah, sure. Gander was Scandinavian in origin, and considering its simplicity, highly versatile. It was most effective at impairing a target's health by pointing a finger. Okay. As a single-action magecraft, it was limited to only causing illness, but there was a secret technique said to be the greatest mystery of the Gander shot. And that would be the fin shot. It could do more than cause simple illness. It was a deadly curse that could stop the heart. Ah. The wound on her back set her nerves on fire. An unarmed girl and a deadly automaton. It was clear that she was the one destined for death. She considered her slim chances of survival when... What? The fuck? A vision sent chills down her spine. Quietly, using everything she could to clamp down on the feeling, AOKO faced her all too familiar illusion. She clenched her teeth to keep them from making a deafening clatter. But there, the sensation of fingers crawling up her neck. Behind her, the specter stared and laughed. This alone made AOKO want to bolt. On top of it all, when AOKO tried to mentally simulate the coming fight, she estimated a 2 in 10 chance of dying in the first 5 seconds. Well, that's not good. 20%. At times, her predictions were harsher than reality. If AOKO fought the puppet 10 times, she would die twice. She couldn't stop herself from visualizing her own corpse. Just make sure it's not one of the 2 times. Forehead? She imagined herself collapsing, crumpling under the puppet's curse. Her eyeballs swollen like a blowfish, blood and other fluids oozing from every bodily orifice. 1 in 5, 1 in 5, 1 in 5. A 1 in 10 chance of death was bad enough, but 1 in 5? It drove her crazy. Yeah, a 1 in 5 chance of death is, not a fun thought to have. Not good chances. I mean, but you've got to do it. AOKO forced down her heart as it tried to escape from her mouth. Taking in a deep breath, she peered at her own reflection. She thought back to that white night half a year ago. This, she decided, was nothing compared to that. 6 months ago, at the Konji estate, the Hound of White Roses, the Wandersnatch that appeared from within the thick fog, had killed AOKO 100 times out of 10. How are you alive? That's my question. A dark curse shadowed AOKO'S daydream. It was only 30 feet away. The puppet rounded the corner. Either side stood in the shadows, their forms indistinct. The puppet gave no warning. Without preamble, it swiftly fired a Gander barrage. Just as Aoko planned, the curses fizzled out as they hit her mist-like barrier of magical energy. The protection would only last a few seconds, giving her just enough time to... That's... horrifying looking. Not Aoko, but the... what is now being covered by Aoko's portrait. Its stretchable spear sprang toward Aoko's face.
Bingo!
Was his name up? The lethal weapon grazed her cheek. All her experience analyzing puppet attack patterns gave her the wherewithal to evade the attack by a hair's breadth. I know what wherewithal means, it's just you rarely ever see that word be used. Okay. It was one thing if a puppeteer were pulling the strings, but autonomous dolls had their limitations. Aoko had bet everything on this killing machine following a predefined template. The puppet would use a given attack for a given range, and she could adjust her tactics to that. Before its arm had a chance to fully retract, she charged the puppet. It was a risky gamble, but her overall chances were slim to begin with. The scales tipped in her favor. If her predictions were correct, there were two ways she would die. One was from a fin shot fired at that range. And the other was if the puppet's attack pattern was beyond her ability to foresee. Instantaneous mass transfer, otherwise known as mass displacement. Man, there are some cool fucking, like, shots. Like, this is just silhouettes, but, like, I don't know, man, it's so good. Immediately after Aoko dodged the puppet's arm, something smashed into her abdomen. That probably hurt. The head-on collision from its shoulder felt like a rocket. But where had the ability to propel itself come from? Puppets like this were not built to have the ability to jet around like that. Oh, I think it used its arm to grab something behind Aoko and then, like, pull itself forward. Doing everything in her power to stay conscious in spite of the pain, Aoko could just make out what happened. Yeah. It latched onto something and then retracted its arm, but since the arm was latched onto something, the body was pulled. Yes, the puppet's arm had not returned to its body. It was lodged in the wall and reeled itself in from the other direction. Apparently, yeah. Swallowing her surprise, she hastily pulled herself back up. Her abdomen, specifically her diaphragm, had been dealt a significant blow. The attack left her disoriented. Thankfully, the puppet was surprisingly lightweight. Her bones and organs were intact, and she had sustained no life-threatening damage. She was having a hard time breathing, however. She was shaken, though she managed to keep her calm. In another 2 seconds, she'd be back on her feet. No, that was 2 seconds too long. She told herself to calm down, that she was already calm. She'd only briefly lost her bearings. She was fine. She could recover her breath and her vision later if only her body would move. Above her, Aoko could hear the warped noise of a powerful force. Anywhere that's not underneath this thing? She could once more feel the touch of death. The puppet was so close that Aoko could reach out and touch it. That also meant that it could reach out and kill Aoko. By intuition alone, Aoko rolled over to the puppet's right flank. Its arm was still embedded within the wall. From here, it couldn't attack. She had made the right decision and her dizziness faded.
Intellectus non necessaris est, dies quiescat. Unus racent abilat fit. Ratio fit standum est. Lores nitium creburum fit.
Aoko pulled herself back up. It was her turn. What? That looks... Again, those eyes are very terrifyingly lifelike. Wait. Wait. Blue eyes, red hair. Is it modeled after Aoko? That's kind of weird. It was only an instant. Within this labyrinth of mirrors, she saw an image of herself.
Salvatum.
A blinding, brilliant light flashed. Lacerations appeared across the walls. At the last moment, Aoko managed to thicken the magical energy running through her veins into a primitive form of magecraft resistance. It just barely saved her life from what must have been the puppet's ace in the hole. The puppet bore a striking resemblance to Aoko, yeah? This powerful curse was not satisfied with stopping Aoko's heart, but destroying her entire being. Aoko did not even have the time to be shocked. This was her chance for a counterattack. The puppet's balance was unsteady, its right arm still embedded in the wall. Aoko prepared to give its defenseless body a strong kick, but her knees buckled and she collapsed into a heap on the floor.
Vevo in somno, solitare pudres cuniferis. Ictius meus obitus dies, et meus natibus dies, te obeam.
A sudden nausea and lightheadedness overcame Aoko. Her body temperature began to rapidly lower. That doesn't sound like a good thing for us. She noticed too late. The puppet's curses circled the hall. The cursed chant the puppet used as a source of power doubled as a defense mechanism, crippling those who drew near with illness. She bore the full brunt of the entire time she was in close proximity to it. Although Aoko had magic circuits, she was succumbing just as Sojiro had. Languidly, she forced her deteriorating body to jump back. That's good. With all the energy she could muster, she forced her way past the exhaustion caused by the curse. However, Aoko's blood pressure took a steep nosedive, not from the curse-induced anemia, but from what appeared in front of her. They stood in perfect harmony. In front of Aoko was the automata that shared her face, its left arm held out like an arrow. The deadly weapon shot forward and honed in on her heart. Then, a moment before it made contact, our boy... That was the calmest watch out in a deadly situation I've ever heard. The moment she heard that fearless voice, completely out of place in this storm of violence, Aoko's body was pulled forcefully to one side. Once again, the extending arm cut through empty air. Well, the puppet quickly retracted its left arm. Sojiro took the brief opportunity to take Aoko by the hand and flee at full speed. Okay, I knew he wouldn't leave her. I thought he was gonna go down the stairs she pointed out and then flank it by coming back around, but You know, this works too. She's not dead, at least. That's what matters. Sojiro ran through the corridor as fast as he could, only stopping when he had put enough distance between them and the puppet.
考えてみると
Yeah? Though he had saved her, she looked angry rather than grateful. Yeah, I mean, she did tell him to leave. This didn't keep Sojiro from saying his piece.
明日はどうも忙しいみたいなんだ
Okay? In other words, let's finish this today. A rather awkward proposal. She's like, what the fuck? Aoko remained silent. She was also rather angry. Not that she couldn't figure out what made him tick, nor because he'd returned after escaping. Not even because he was spouting his typically airheaded lines. It was, she supposed, that instant. The fact that when he grabbed her hand, her mind had gone completely blank. Aoko found it unforgivable. Which beckoned the response.
あなた、正気?
Yes. That is the answer, yes. In the heat of the moment, she blurted it out before she could stop herself.
それとも自殺願望でもあったわけ? 私もあいつも、あんたなんか殺す対象に過ぎないのよ。
I mean, you could. Yeah, you could. But will you?
少なくとも、恩を売る相手じゃない。言っとくけど、私、助けられたぐらいで曲がる信念は持ち合わせていないから。
Okay, sure, Aoko, sure. Sojiro nodded, clearly unperturbed.
青崎がそんな可愛らしいもんじゃないのはこの夜だけで骨身に染みてるよ
Is that a compliment? Or what does that mean? She found herself slightly offended. I mean, you know, is he wrong?
けど君は勘違いをしてるから少し正そう
Okay.
あいつの狙いは青崎だけじゃない君だけじゃなく俺も殺す気だと思う
I don't think so. I very much don't think so. She was having none of it. Her eyes shot daggers his way.
話は最後まで聞くどうしてかっていうと1階の入り口あるだろあの細長い通路
Uh-huh.
なんでかあそこから先に進めないんだ逃げたくても逃げ出せなくて仕方なく戻ってきた
Aoko's eyes widened ever so slightly in amazement. Not out of shock, but rather admiration that her enemy would go to such lengths.
それにさっきので完全に敵扱いされたあの人形こっちをじろっと睨んできたし
I mean, Aoko is probably the primary target, but like, you know, gotta take care of the witness and all.
いや一瞬でよく見えなかったけど生きた心地しなかったな青崎も気をつけた方がいい多分よっぽど怖い顔をしているに違いないぞ
maybe don't say that when it looks like Aoko.
それはご親切にどうも
うんなんでこれはもう他人事じゃないんだ青崎と人形結論としてどっちが勝っても俺は殺されてしまうんじゃないか
So you'd rather be Aoko? I guess.
そうねそこまでやってるなら目撃者は消すでしょうね私みたい
に Yeah, that's what you were doing, you mean.
だろでも俺はあいつには殺されたくない
I'm sure you'd rather not die either way, but yeah, she even she's like, wait, hold up, wait, what's that mean? His words were decisive. Like, if anyone's gonna kill me, it's you. As Aoko looked up at him, she could swear he was trying to encourage her. It was then that she realized. Sojiro was looking even worse than before.
ちょっと待って。大丈夫なのあなた。
Probably not.
まあ、醤油を一升瓶飲むよりはマシではないかと。
I mean, yeah. I don't. Sure. He tried to make light of the situation, but his forehead was clearly drenched in sweat.
そうか。さっき人形に近づいたから。
How could he possibly be able to withstand a curse that made even Aoko nauseous? Again, there's probably something about him that makes him like... I don't know. I don't know. She bit her lip, annoyed at herself for not noticing this earlier. Sojiro was such an airhead that she hadn't even paused to consider his plight.
下で隠れていようとか思わなかったの？その方がどう考えても安全でしょ？
To do that, he would have to go to the first floor and it was cut off. Oh my god. She really couldn't understand him at all.
それは青崎が言うセリフじゃないな。でもまあ、長話をしている時間もない。そろそろ追いついてくる頃だ。
He turned to look down the corridor. The crackling sounds of a music box could be heard creeping forth from the darkness.
さっき1階にて考えたんだ。君がやられても俺は
Oh,
殺
the
される。
entrance out, so he could have gone to the basement.
まず奴をどうにかするべきだ。
Okay. Is she gonna accept the help?
あなた、何が言いたいの？
She asked a question to which she already knew the answer. Yeah, he's gonna help. She did it to put him to the test. If he wavered even a little, she would have killed him where he stood. Well, gee, thanks.
提案。あいつをやっつけるのに協力したら、俺のことは見逃してくれる？
Yeah, that's a fair, proposal. But, no.
助けられたぐらいじゃ信念は曲げないって言ったでしょ？それに、あなたに何ができるっていうの？
So you got a point.
それは青崎が考えてくれ。得意だろ、そういうの。
The commander, who had the overall picture, was responsible for delegating roles to their teammates. It was futile to depend on someone who was unable to grasp the situation or evaluate the enemy's strength. Sojiro was proud to share that he knew this. I guess he's got basic combat smarts? Weirdly enough. He spoke the truth. Aoko was the only one who knew both Sojiro and the automata. That was why he pointed out that following her orders to the best of his ability was the only thing he could do. It may have seemed as though Sojiro had surrendered his capacity for self-thought, but in fact, in accepting that he was helpless, he was in fact giving Aoko his complete trust. Okay.
じゃあ、私の指示に 100% 従うってこと？
Yes.
ああ。それに、これは恩とか義理の話じゃない。一人だと分が悪いから二人でかかるだけだ。善意でも好意でもない。取引って言わないか、こういうの。
Okay. That's very not you. She's probably thinking the same thing I am. This is very different from what we've come to expect of Sojiro. His eyes sparkled as if this was bartering in its truest form. I mean, it kind of is. Like,
まったく。
This child must have learned that from Tobimaru, Aoko thought. Yeah, who knows what Tobimaru's been putting in his head. Though she refused to let him see it, underneath she cracked a smile. Oh, okay. Sure, he had gotten the best of her just now, but there were times when defeat was not the worst outcome in the world.
労働と報酬ってわけね。それなら理にかなってる。うん。言いたくないけど。
She relaxed her shoulders and sighed. Her face cracked into a wicked smile, as if her fears had suddenly washed away.
それ、結構私の好みよ。
Okay. Aoko repaid Sojiro's trust in equal measure. Time for a mannequin beatdown.
結構きついかもね。あなたの役目。
Oh, I'm sure he knows. Aoko warned Sojiro, moving as fast as she could without her footfalls causing a din of noise. Sojiro remained near the center of the spiral maze on the second floor.
実を言うと、もう一つ用意しておいた仕掛けがあるの。
Okay.
自分でもやりすぎだって呆れたもんだけど、あなたがここに来るのが遅かったから、ちょっと興に乗っちゃって。
Well, okay, at least we're using it to kill something other than him, so I guess that's good.
仕掛けって俺用の？
Yeah. Sojiro tilted his head like a squirrel as Aoko freely discussed the final ace up her sleeve.
地下の柱に着火型のちょっとした魔術式を刻んでおいたの。中心の柱に点火することで連鎖的に他の柱に仕掛けた魔術も起動する。
Okay.
ジャミングを食らう前に作ったものだから直接魔力を叩き込めば一気にこういくわ。
I feel like she's trying to dumb it down for him a little bit. Like, it'll go boom. Sojiro was a little unsettled by how unclear that last bit was.
青崎、こうじゃわからない。できるだけ明確にどこまで爆破する気だったのか白状してくれ。
Oh, that's what. Yeah. You know, I guess I'd be a little concerned about that too, but I.
あと、もしかして俺早まったか？
Very much maybe.
いや、その単なる保険っていうか。
Uh-huh. Right, insurance.
追いかけっこの途中であんたを見失ったら、いっそ建物ごと爆破しちゃおうかなって。
Uh-huh. Bring the whole fucking building down, huh? It was her policy to be thorough to the end, after all. She laughed in embarrassment, saying it out loud, though. Yeah. Jesus.
いくらなんでも徹底しすぎてる。
Faced with Aoko's cruelty, Sojiro forgot about the situation at hand and protested from the bottom of his heart.
何よ、いいじゃない。そのおかげでなんとかなりそうなんだから。
Yeah, well, I'll take it. She shot back. Aoko dashed down the corridor, mumbling things that probably would have sent Sojiro packing if he heard them. The strategy was simple. Aoko would use the escape route to the right, and avoid the puppet while making her way down to the basement. Upon reaching the central pillar, she would infuse the formula she had prepared with magical energy and escape. Once ignited, it would take about a minute for the chain reaction to spread throughout the whole house of mirrors, and another minute for the building to collapse. She would be cutting it a little close, but because she had committed the maze to memory, she was sure she could make it out on time. Hopefully. Hopefully. Aoko assumed that the chain reaction caused by the pillar would clear the barrier that the puppet had placed at the entrance. That's a big gamble. You're assuming it will. Okay. And even if it was strong enough to withstand the blast, it wouldn't be able to stay standing once the foundation is buckled. Sojiro's escape was assured as long as the formula in the basement was activated. Next came the most important part. The automaton was at a disadvantage in the obstacle-laden House of Mirrors, and was unable to move at full speed. If it was near the center of the second floor when the building collapsed, it would be caught up and crushed by it. So the problem was keeping the puppet on the second floor until Aoko could make it down to the basement. Which is Sojiro's job, I guess, right? So you're trusting him to not succumb to the curses completely and just like pass out. Or you're counting on him passing out but keeping it there long enough for you to escape. And they both die. Okay.
当てにしたからね、しずきくん。せめて3分ぐらいは引きつけて。
3 minutes is a long fucking time when fighting for your life. Like, I don't know. Ideally, he would be able to keep it busy until she could activate the formula. If that failed to work, him luring it down to the first floor would be the next best thing. She understood perfectly well the danger she was putting Sojiro in, but his lucky streak and running speed were nothing to scoff at. Yeah.
ただ逃げるだけなら、もしかしてとんでもないことをしてくれるかも。あいつ。
That's a lot of maybes. Aoko made her way through the hidden passage of the maze, her hopes pinned on Sojiro. Meanwhile, well out of earshot, Sojiro was readying himself for another desperate chase. He calmed his beating heart using a method of his own making. Okay, I feel like this is gonna be important for more than just him getting ready to run. What mattered most was that he remained calm. The plan was simple enough, and Aoko's orders were succinct and easy to understand.
10メートルぐらいの距離を保って、できるだけゆっくり通路を3、4周すること。
Okay.
横道は鏡のつなぎ目で覚えて。ここなら左回りで6、3、7、2枚目にあるから、そこをぐるぐる回ってれば比較的安全よ。
It was essentially a looping marathon. As long as Sojiro maintained a distance of the puppet's extended arm, and just enough that she could continue to track him, she should continue chasing him indefinitely. Simple though the task was, Sojiro was putting his life on the line as bait. And then there was the final order to run as fast as he could to the exit when the building began to sway.
結構じゃなくて、かなりきついんじゃないかな、これは。
I mean, this is probably your best shot, to be honest. It's this or guaranteed death, so... You know, a 50-50 chance of death or guaranteed, I'll take the 50-50. I guess, personally. He nervously stuck his head out from around the corner. He could hear the sound of the music box from the other side of the corridor. First, he had to make eye contact with it, then head through the shortcut on the right and begin the game of tag. He spotted it and braced himself. Closer, closer. Fearing that her arm could fly him at any moment, he went over Aoko's instructions in his head. What? However, he could not quite remember which pane led to the first hidden passage. That's not good. The third? The sixth? The ninth? Oh, buddy. Oh my god. Well, you have to figure it out on the fly, I guess. No. He was sure that was mistaken. He was confident he had it memorized moments ago, but his nerves had gotten the best of him, and his head was now spinning. Then, Sojiro realized that the sound of his pursuer was beginning to grow distant. Is it just ignoring him? And at an incredible speed. That wasn't in the plan. I think that would be my expression too if I saw that. I'd be like, what the fuck? Bruh. The unusual silhouette of the puppet astonished him. Before, it had taken the form of a beautiful girl. But now it made a bizarre transformation and returned to the first floor to pursue her primary target. That's not good.
Yeah, それは
I don't think it cares, Sojiro. Sojiro was no longer sure what to do. I guess chase it? With not even the time to mourn his failure, the puppet had vanished out of sight. I'll be of help, just let me go. Or so he had said, but now he couldn't follow through.
さて、自分はこれからどうしよう。
Go after it and do what you can, I guess. Alone, he tilted his head in frustration. Yeah. He spoke into the darkness as if Aoko would be there to answer him. Alright. Okay. That very moment, having arrived on the first floor, Aoko quickly understood what had transpired above her. She didn't even have to strain her ears to hear the puppet. Even during its heyday, this attraction had made sounds like the ones she heard coming toward her now. It was the sound of despair, as if a horde of monstrous hedgehogs were scraping their way past the mirrors in her direction. Hedgehogs, okay.
ドジ、3分どころか10秒持たないってどういうことよ。
Well, it's not what you think, but rather than buying her time, Sojiro had in fact stolen hers. She dreamed of cursing him for failing to fulfill his one job.
複数の足音ってことは二足から多脚に切り替えたのね。
Yeah, that's how I would describe it. Yeah. The echoes made it sound like the footsteps of dozens of feet. To Aoko, it sounded like a giant six-legged spider tearing its way down the corridor. It was a little wonder that it was so much faster than before. Its perception of its surroundings to echolocation was of particular use in the dark. Compared to sight-dependent humans, this automaton was far better equipped to navigate its way through the labyrinth of mirrors. If it couldn't keep pace earlier, it was because its bipedal mode of movement was not up to the task. But the stability provided by multiple legs gave it speed that far exceeded that of any human. Her thoughts spun out as she tried to come up with a plan B. All she knew for sure was that this was a pivotal moment. If she continued standing still, she had seconds left at most. Even in her current state, she knew she could easily neutralize the bounded field blocking the entrance without casting a spell. All she had to do was pour a little of her own energy into it. Aoko could sprint with all her might for a little more than 3 minutes. The puppet had far more stamina than she did. She could only come up with 3 options. The first was to escape through the exit in front of her. The second was to hide herself somewhere within the far more complicated first floor. And the third was to run into the basement and be stuck like a rat in a trap.
なんだ、考えるまでもない。
Is it? She made her decision with zero hesitation, moving her stiff legs again with determined strength. The oncoming storm was almost upon her. Resolve firm, she turned and ran, descending into the darkness. Yeah, if you're gonna be trapped, may as well do something to take it with you. No matter what, a finale should be glorious. Yeah. This would be the Mirror Castle's final scene. 2 humans and a puppet. A young sorceress ran toward the subterranean heart of the castle, while an autonomous antique chased its prey into the depths of a demonic dungeon. A minute later, a faint blue charge would ripple through the castle. This was the main pillar in the deepest depths of the basement. The pillar itself was not there to support the castle's structure, but it would serve nicely as a symbol into which the girl thrust her fist with all of her magical energy. Okay. This was the blow that would bring down the castle. She imagined the scene as she threw the punch, a scene that would soon become reality. It was simple ignition magecraft, meant to release the condensed magical energy engraved into the 4 pillars that formed the foundation of the structure. Using electricity as a switch meant virtually instantaneous activation. He's like, wait, what? Nani? Swift and elegant, a hammer of destruction descended upon the castle of dreams that had stubbornly resisted its fate for 2 years. It was almost a joyous sound. And so the lifeless and abandoned castle of mirrors set the stage for its final and most spectacular performance. AOKO'S magical energy became an electrical charge that activated the magecraft formula engraved into the pillar. The chain reaction would lead to the castle's destruction.
ご苦労様。でも、思ってたよりくたびれてたのね。これじゃあ1分持つかどうか。
Yeah. The plaza in the center of the basement. AOKO tried to steady her breathing while rotating her magic crest at full speed. She wreathed her arms in blue light, fully aware that she could no longer activate another formula. That's not fucking creepy. Her labored breathing refused to settle. She stood at the center of the basement. Without being spotted even once, she had managed to make it all the way to the central pillar. It was a 100-meter dash in 13 seconds flat. Undoubtedly a new personal best. She spurred on her weakened heart, knowing full well the fate that awaited her.
入れば追ってくる。地下に行けば逃げられない。
We'll see about that.
当然よね。最後まで逃げ回ろうなんて虫のいい話だった。
Hindsight was 2020. The castle was only a minute away from collapsing completely. If they stayed here, they would both be crushed by the rubble. The puppet certainly didn't care. With no life of its own, its sole concern was the elimination of its target, Aoko Aozaki. Indeed, the enemy had been willing to die from the start. She resented her own lack of resolve. It wasn't like her to tuck tail and run from an enemy that didn't fear death.
Vivo insomni, solitare putres inferis. Ictius meus auditus dies, et meus nativus dies, te obeam.
そもそも自爆覚悟じゃないあれ。6速歩行とフィンの一撃は使いすぎよ。もう呪詛による魔力補給じゃ間に合わない。
That's good. But that probably just means it'll have to get its hands on you to kill you instead. Which, less good. Such a perpetual motion device was only as good as its ability to regulate its energy consumption. Using so many functions at once meant it was burning through fuel quickly and losing the ability to process the curses that powered it. It was using up all of the functions it had been given to achieve its aim. This was the pride of a tool, if such things could have ego. Those endowed with sentience could never hope to understand. A beast born to do nothing but run would burn any human who faced its resolve.
ほんともったいない。
Yeah.
こういう無茶をするのは姉貴だけかと思ってたけど、いるところにはいるもんね。
Speaking of her sister, when I first learned they were like puppets, I thought maybe it would be Toko who's behind this. Like all the puppets like being out and about. But it's probably not right. But AOKO did not intend to sacrifice play here. She respected her adversary now, and she was done regretting her choices. There was no time to waste.
行くわよ。ここできっかり。
AOKO had every intention of paying it back double for what it had done to her. The energy AOKO had accumulated exploded out of her right leg. She aimed for a single thing, a head-on attack. The enemy's response was a curse to crush her heart. A curse that would rend AOKO'S heart and destroy itself in the process. As soon as she saw it, AOKO kicked to the floor as hard as she could. Her long hair swirled through the air as she flipped aside. This lateral move almost sent her tumbling to the ground, but a quick swing of her arm allowed her to regain her balance. A shot grazed her arm, with the curse scorching her left shoulder. She didn't flinch. AOKO knew she could hold on as long as she continued to avoid a direct finish shot.
Snap!
Off balance and in pain, it took her half a second to recover. The moment she raised her head, she deflected the attack with a fistful of magical energy.
せーの!
If the puppet had a will of its own, its eyes would have popped right out of its sockets. It would have been floored, shocked at the strong will that allowed this girl to perform a series of moves like this. AOKO'S response was instantaneous. While her power was not sufficient to completely redirect the arm's trajectory, it was just enough to deflect it harmlessly past her hair. The chant became a curse that robbed AOKO of her vitality. Did it still have something left in the tank? Or was it actually indignant? Whatever the reason, AOKO was easily able to resist this weakened defensive maneuver. And her right leg, pulsing with magical energy, shot up into the puppet's chest from below. Is that enough to stop it, though? It was much lighter than AOKO anticipated. Or rather, She felt little resistance. An automaton's weight was determined by its internals, the size of its power source. Ironically, it was the superiority of its music box engine that would prove to be its downfall.
Venite, venite, venite. Meum sepulchrum, venite.
A stuttering curse. Having taken the full brunt of AOKO'S kick, the puppet bounced from ceiling to floor, collapsing in a heap. Its internal construction had been warped by the impact, leaving the drum of the music box that powered the puppet warped as well.
恨むなら設計者を恨みなさい。ダイナモの一つでも積んでいれば、もうちょっとは重たくなったでしょうに。
Part of the ceiling came crashing down in front of AOKO, snapping her back to her senses. Yeah, the building is still coming down.
ところで今、どうやってぶっ倒したんだろう。
Apparently. You might want to go, though. She was so stunned by her own victory that she forgot the House of Mirrors had already begun to collapse.
こっちのがやばかった。
Yeah! There was no time to relish in her victory or pity her opponent. Not unless she wanted to meet the same fate. As the situation stood, she found it hard to imagine getting out alive.
急げ、ダッシュだ私。
She slapped herself on the cheek and took off. This was her bounty for finishing their battle in a matter of seconds. I'm kinda mad Sojiro wasn't able to do anything. But, okay. With her breathing labored by all the excitement, she ran for the exit. Is he still dilly-dallying upstairs? Please don't tell me he is. The collapse was intensifying by the second. Having lost its support pillars, the castle was buckling under its own weight. Escaping from the basement was proving to be no easy task. While she was taking the shortest route possible through the maze, she was nearly crushed by a falling piece of the ceiling along the way. Was the second time? No third. She had to deal with fallen rubble along the way. She destroyed the debris on the stairs with magic bullets as she ran. The automaton's jamming had long since worn off. The earlier attack had damaged the vast majority of its functions. I really hope Sojiro's already, like, near the exit. Her breathing was heavy as she ran. The intensity surrounding her sparked her brain into overdrive. The ceiling seemed to be collapsing in slow motion. For her, a second felt like 5. Her frayed nerves made it hard to read time correctly. As her life seemed to flash before her eyes, a light at the end of the tunnel. Oh, it's not dead! There was debris riddled throughout the stairway, forcing her to crawl up it. She emerged from the destroyed basement into the collapsing first floor. That the plaza was still traversable at all was a miracle in itself, and fortunately for her, the crucial path to the exit was still intact.
よし、ついてる。
The corridor to the entrance was still intact. The basement maze only extended as far as the plaza, so the entrance corridor wouldn't collapse. Only the ceiling would cave in, leaving the scaffolding surrounding intact. She got herself this far by telling herself repeatedly that fate would decide whether or not she reached the plaza. Her gamble paid off. It was her lucky day. All she had to do was muster the last of her strength, and keep moving forward until she hesitated for a fraction of a second. Was it naivety? A sense of responsibility? She pushed aside the image that popped into her head and continued running down the corridor.
言っとくけど、時間合わせの余裕はないわよ。そんな上等な作戦じゃないし、お互いできることをやったら最速で出口に向かいましょう。
I mean, to be fair, he didn't really do his part, so... That was 5 minutes ago. At the time, Sojiro had nodded with trepidation. And Aoko had not bothered to ask herself why.
何様だっての私、今は走ることだけ考えろ。
This corridor was giving out too. If she were to look back, she was sure she would see the building collapsing in on her. She was also sure she had no time to waste doing so. Her luck was fading as fast as the building's structural integrity. It was a small miracle that she had escaped serious injury up to this point, and she couldn't afford even the slightest slip-up. An ankle sprain, loss of balance, even a sneeze would be fatal. A simple pat on the back was enough to end it. So naturally... the thing still chasing her would, throw a bit of a wrench in the plan. There it was, clear as day. From the detritus of the stairway, death had arisen to take her down with it. A corpse that had crawled its way up from the depths of hell itself. It was still operational. And it was still armed with curses. It had crawled after her, watching as Aoko desperately tried to save herself. The puppet's arm shot forward. But Aoko did not turn to meet it. She could see its reflection in the mirrors.
E salvati, e salvati, e salvati, e salvati.
Extend, extend, extend. This time she could not dodge it. There was absolutely nothing she could do. The puppet with her face sang,
Venit Dominum, Lut sine somnium, et pulvere simile quotidiano, cor prego, te judico.
For a moment, she couldn't believe her eyes. This was the last thing she expected to see.
しつこいぞ、お前。
Apparently not, our boy's back! A fierce expression adorned the face of the boy who had been waiting in the plaza as he smashed the puppet's outstretched arm. Anger really did not suit him at all. His weapon of choice was a fire extinguisher. He must have searched the maze for something to use as a weapon. No, never mind that. It was too crazy to contemplate. But had he stayed behind? For her? I mean, maybe. Our boy, you know, he likes you as a person, you know. Plus, he made a deal, you know. He wouldn't just break his end of the deal, even if it didn't go to plan. Oh boy. Aoko stopped to the feet she had sworn to herself she would never stop moving and extended a hand out to him. Sojiro tossed the fire extinguisher aside and took off running. Pieces of ceiling continued to collapse like dominoes. They kept moving with dust and dirt following them in their wake. Their shadows raced through the collapsing corridor with all their strength. The castle was in the throes of death. With a massive crash and a cloud of dust, the final chapter of the fairy tale that had been Kitsuland came to an abrupt end. Well, that was, close. Too close, if you ask me. But yeah, did she really think that if he wasn't dead that he would just leave her? Like, he made a deal. He wouldn't break his end of it. Even if he knew that she would end up killing him after. Which I assume he still assumed. Well, no, because I guess their deal was that he would be like, I don't know. I don't know what's going through his head. This duel to the death was over. For a moment, amidst their swirling emotions, all past enmity was left behind, and the two collapsed on the lawn and basked in a strange solidarity. The ringing in their ears subsided before long. A tremor of such magnitude seemed impossible in an amusement park like this. As the sounds of destruction echoed across the park, Aoko addressed the individual at her side.
Ne, 生きてる?
For now.
Che.
Wow. Rude much. Well, the clicker for tongue was adorable. The meaning behind it was anything but. Uh-huh.
青崎、あいつどうなった?
Probably crushed.
見ての通りよ。今頃バラバラ死体になってるんじゃない?
Oh yeah, hopefully. Hopefully. Sojiro sighed, not wholly relieved by her frank response. His reason.
でも、そんな心配より自分の心配をした方がいいと思うわよ、しずきくん。
He wasn't out of the woods yet, after all. Yeah.
青崎、子供の頃はいじめっ子だっただろ。
But rude.
可逆趣味はないって自負してるけど。
Why do I doubt that? I don't know.
それで、今の自分の立場、分かってる?
Yeah? She sat up and smiled. Sojiro hung his head in shame, wondering why her kind tone and expression were so chilling.
面目次第もございません。
かしこまってもダメよ。あの提案には大前提があったわよね。これは取引だって。あなたが役に立つのなら見逃してあげるっていう。
Okay, to be fair, it wasn't really his fault. How was he supposed to know it was going to ignore him?
わかってる。だから面目ないって言ってるだろ。
Sojiro made a show of avoiding her eyes. Like a pouting child. Aoko was taken aback by the sulky display. Perhaps he was angry at himself rather than her. He wasn't mad because she wouldn't let him go. He was mad that he hadn't done his part. Yeah, he subverts expectations. Aoko sighed for what seemed like the millionth time that day. She couldn't figure out what surprised her more, his unconditional kindness or her naive approval of it.
じゃあ、覚悟はできてるの?
For death, whoever is.
そんなのはできないけど、約束だからな。結局は何もしていないし。
It was certainly the case that he failed to do any of the things she'd expected of him. But he did save her life at the very end. Like, that counts for something, right? But just then, she glanced back at the collapsed House of Mirrors. What had he done after failing so spectacularly? He had searched for the extinguisher so he could use it as a weapon, and waited patiently in the plaza as the maze collapsed all around him, because he thought it was wrong of him to leave alone. Yeah, that's our boy. It was a foolish choice, and the exact opposite of her choice to run towards the exit without hesitation.
ま、それでよしとするか。
Yeah, in the end, he did something. She was satisfied, even if she was shocked at how naive she was being. It was true he'd saved her. She smiled inwardly, admiring, if only for a moment, the bravery he continued to show in the face of such extreme circumstances.
役割は果たさなかったけど、アフターケアは合格だし、約束は守らなくちゃね。
With a nod, she pulled herself to her feet.
約束は、いつか守ってもらうとして。
And pay it back he will. The girl tried to keep a straight face. She offered a hand to the boy still lying on the ground. Looks like he's sitting to me, but...
結果はどうあれ手助けしてもらったし、特別サービスってことで、今夜はもう手を出さないであげる。
Huh?
He's like, wait, what? Hold up. Oh. She bashfully averted her gaze. Though her profile appeared different than it had in the past, it was clearly still the face of the vibrant girl he met the day he first arrived in town. Uh-huh.
何?
You. As if she had felt his eyes on her, she shot him a frowning glare. Like, the fuck you looking at?
いや、突拍子もないけど、青崎は律儀だなって。
What do you mean crazy? I mean, nah, I can't blame him for that, actually. Never mind. It is kind of crazy to say she's fair, but... He took her outstretched hand, feeling his weight as she pulled him up. She couldn't help but think that he was about the last person she wanted to hear that from.
ところで、今夜はって言うけど、明日からは
Another chase.
さあ、その時になったら考えるわ。
Oh, poor Sojiro. What has he gotten himself into? She shrugged her shoulders as if she wasn't sure herself. The response was so unlike her that it made Sojiro smile. Was it the solidarity of having escaped together? Or their fleeting camaraderie that made him do so? It might have been for this night only, but the air between them was kind and gentle. A lot had transpired, but the midwinter nightmare had come to an end. The pair had overcome many trials and tribulations, and could now leave the mirror realm in their wake. But before that...
随分と身勝手ね。それはあなた一人で決めていいことだったかしら、青子。
Alice, how's it going? You know, it's she made an executive decision. Also, where the hell were you when we were being chased by a fucking, like, puppet? It was the voice of a beautiful singing bird and a merciless machine all rolled into one.
Alice.
Her voice quivered as she spoke the name. The lady in black made her presence known. The night was not yet over. Her name was Alice Quonji. She was a witch whose name struck fear into the heart of AOKO, an avatar of the night who would allow no witnesses. Oh boy! Out of the frying pan and into the fire, huh? Anyway, I'm gonna call it there. Next time we'll will have to contend with Alice, it would seem. That'll go well, right? Right, guys? Definitely no murder will happen. Again, I'm basing that purely off the PlayStation startup screen for the game. So... Yeah, anyway. That's gonna do it. And next time, the Night of the Witches 2. Oh boy. It's gonna be, like, we saw a snippet of what Alice could do in chapter 1.5, but something tells me that's not even close to her. Something tells me that wasn't even close to her full strength. What we saw in 1.5. I feel like she can be much, much more ruthless. So looking forward to that. My phone went off again, sorry. But yeah, anyway, I think I'll watch it and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.